a race that ended with so much dissatisfaction. It's hard to even get excited that Ferrari won. As a race fan who likes racing, who likes that wheel-to-wheel action, like every race fan, it was, a bit of an anticlimax, the checkered flag. What did you think?
Are you ready?
It's lights out and away we go.
Let's do it.
Hello, and welcome back to Away We Go podcast, a Formula One podcast that goes beyond the track limits to talk about travel and lifestyle surrounding the sport. My name's Dianne Bortoletto, and today I'm in Margaret River and joined by the ever lovely Ciara Gillan from Formula Live Polls. Welcome back, Ciara.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back. I'm especially excited to be here today.
We've just had the British Grand Prix, which always delivers. Silverstone, 52 laps of a nearly 5.9 kilometre circuit. And it was a race that ended with so much dissatisfaction. It's hard to even get excited that Ferrari won. Like I was so deflated at the end of the race because, of course, the race ended with a safety car, under a safety car. And Charles Leclerc was the first race car behind the safety car. So it was a Ferrari win. Charles Leclerc's first win for a really long time between top steps for him. Fabulous to see. He was so happy. But as a race fan who likes racing, who likes that wheel-to-wheel action, like every race fan, it was, a bit of an anticlimax, the checkered flag. What did you think?
Oh my God, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I thought the race was honestly thrilling. I really enjoyed the race. It did not look like a Ferrari win, and I still found it thrilling. And then when it was starting to look like a Ferrari win, I was even more excited. And yeah, I was gutted that it ended under a safety car. I have so many opinions, about it.
Let's hear it.
Absolutely delighted for Charles. I mean, was it the easiest podium for Russell ever? That grates me so much. Oh my God. I felt that Lewis was hard done by with the stupid pinning, but we'll talk about that. But I'm delighted. I'm delighted for Charles. I'm absolutely delighted. I think he deserved it. He had a stellar race. He really deserved the win. There was honestly a point where he wasn't going to get it. If Antonelli did not have that technical issue, also a little hero in his own right, and we'll get to that. But anyway, it was a Ferrari day in the end. So very excited.
Very excited. Charles Leclerc finished, like we said, on the top step of the podium, his first win in 2 years. George Russell finished second, which was just, not dumb luck. I shouldn't say that. It was fortunate that Mercedes didn't pit him under the safety car, which every other team came into the pits. The safety car was deployed with 4 laps to go right at the end. And they chose to keep George Russell out, taking a bit of a risk with a possible restart. Didn't matter in the end because it moved him up to second place. So he took second step of the podium. Lewis Hamilton, of course, in the other Ferrari, who was in second place, then pitted when the safety car came out to have fresh tyres for a possible restart, which didn't eventuate. Ended up getting pushed back to third as a result. So we had 2 Ferraris on the podium, which was really lovely to see in the main race. But yeah, that second place was really Lewis's. But, it is what it is. And sometimes the luck falls your way and sometimes it doesn't. And for George Russell this week, it fell his way. Then just to round out the top 10, we had Lando Norris in 4th, Isaac Hadjar in Red Bull Racing in 5th, Liam Lawson in 6th in Racing Bulls, his teammate Arvid Lindblad in 7th, Gabriel Bortoletto, my cousin, 1T not 2, in one of his best finishes of his career in the Audi in 8th, Franco Colapinto in the Alpine in 9th, who finished ahead of his teammate Pierre Gasly in the other Alpine in 10th. Good to see Pierre in the points, and our Oscar Piastri finished in 11th in McLaren, the Australian. So yes, that's the top 10. Who's absent? Max Verstappen. The reason for the safety car.
I know, right?
I know he was so unhappy with the Red Bull car in general all weekend, right? I don't know if it was the balance of the car or the steering. He went off on a gravel trap, which is what deployed the safety car in the end.
It was crazy. I mean, he had a stellar of a race. And I mean, obviously, as much as I wanted Ferrari on that podium, I don't think I would have been hugely disappointed if he had, because he just really had a great race. He was on fire. I mean, the battles between, I think I was texting you at one point, the battles between Lewis and well, the first one was Lewis and Russell. That was the, yeah. So, but we'll come to that. But Verstappen had an amazing race. I really thought he did. Like, and I know he was complaining about the car, and he was, wasn't happy all weekend. Red Bull aren't the second best car out there. They really aren't. But he was doing a stellar job, and even Isaac had qualified above him actually for the main race. I don't even know exactly what happened. He talked about it in the post-race interviews and said it was the same thing. I think it was slightly different, but similar to what happened in Austria. He was really pissed about it. He was like, what was it? The way he phrased it. Oh my God. He said something like, happening once is okay. Happening a second time is dangerous. And then he was like, from me. I'm like, I mean, 100% is dangerous for him. But the way he said it, I thought he was like basically meaning like dangerous for everybody around me, because if you don't get this sorted, I'm going to go mad.
Yeah.
Like, Max has such high standards, and that's what makes him a champion. And that was always what I felt with him, watching him. Like, when things were going wrong in FP1 and 2 and 3, he was busting balls to make sure that was fixed for what quali, and then he was winning the race,
I actually felt a bit sorry for Max, which are words I never thought I would hear myself say. But yeah, when he went out of the race, because you're right, he was having an absolute fantastic race, and the battles between, yes, him and George, wheel-to-wheel racing was fantastic. Him and Lewis, George and Lewis, there was so many great battles going on, and the racing was intense, and also in the sprint race as well. And it was a sprint weekend, which we'll get to in a sec. The other notable absence in the top 10 is the championship leader, Kimi Antonelli, who, wow, he was just so unlucky. He had a mechanical issue with the car. It was what was it called? The wheel rim or something that got knocked when he went over the gutter. And it was
wheel shield.
Wheel
The
shield.
wheel shield. I think that was it. Yeah.
And that was messing with the aerodynamics in high speed. He couldn't turn corners properly. He was going off the track. The team wanted to pit him and retire the car, and it was so cute listening to him on the radio. No, I can keep going. I might be able to get a point. What place are we in? I still might be able to get a point. I'm going to keep pushing like crazy guys. I was like, yes, that's fighting spirit. I love to see that. So top marks to him for his fighting spirit, but unfortunately, with the issues he had with his car, he ended up finishing in 15th overall. He was looking like finishing second, maybe even first. He was really having a fantastic race.
I think he was definitely finishing first. When he finally pitted, first of all, he went the longest on the mediums,
Yes.
which was amazing. And, when Charles went on the hards, I was trying to figure out kind of in my head what Ferrari's strategy was. Obviously, they were looking to undercut him. But Charles wasn't really making massive inroads, to Antonelli's time. And I think when he finally kind of did a little bit, that's when they pitted him. But like, either way, he went much longer than anybody else. And so when he came out of the pits, he was only 7 seconds behind Charles. And I think within 2 or 3 laps, maybe 4, he was 4 seconds. So he was flying along. Yeah, there was a VC at one point, and Charles was like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And they were like, we're staying out. I only heard a post-race, but apparently Charles was like, we're very vulnerable here. There's nothing I can do. Kimi is coming. Like, so they knew that Kimi was going to take them. And I don't understand. I mean, the gods were looking over Ferrari, like on that part of the garage. And they're very lucky. But I don't understand what Ferrari's logic was, because Kimi was fast enough. He was racing, and he was definitely taking that number 1 spot. No doubt about it. Really.
Yeah, it was a shame that he had an issue with the car, and that ruined his race, so to speak, and saw his teammate finish in second, which, yeah, like I said, that was just luck really on George's side. But you take some, you lose some. That's just the way it is, yeah.
Well, there's so much to talk about here for a second. So, like, first of all, George was doing quite well. Then George got a puncture. And I remember he was battling Lewis, okay? And it comes on the radio and goes, there is a puncture. And he was like,
Yeah.
Like, you got a puncture, buddy. And so I was like, what the hell? And I remember they were like, oh, we're going to pit. And then they didn't pit. They kept on not pitting. And I was like, what the hell is going on? So eventually they pit him. And you're thinking, okay, he's out of the point. He's out of the podium at least, if not out of the points, but definitely out of the podium. And so you're thinking that's happening. Then Kimi has his issue. So first of all, we should comment on the fact that both Mercedes had technical. Okay, puncture is not exactly his fault.
No, and it was a slow puncture. So it wasn't a big explosion puncture. It was a slow puncture. And he overtook Lewis while he had the puncture. So that was pretty incredible, actually.
Right? Yeah, right. So like, I mean, he was complaining afterwards that he didn't really have the pace, but like there was still pace there, you know, as you say, he overtook Lewis. And he was on the charge for Max. But then Kimi had his technical faults, and Kimi would have actually gotten points. Do you think he was a 10th? And then with Max DNFing, Kimi would have actually gotten like 2 points. I think he was then would have been 9th, obviously. But Kimi was driving so erratically with this issue that he went over track limits. And so then he got 5-second penalty for track limits.
Yes, because he couldn't turn the car properly because of what was wrong with his car. So when he was getting to certain corners, he was going off the track. And, you know, I've got to agree with the commentary team and with Kimi himself, who said on the radio, oh man, track limits, like that's so unfair. I'm fighting to survive. I'm not gaining an advantage. And that's, you know, the car's broken. It's not me, so to speak. And I think there's a few changes in the regulations that we should talk about. That's one of them. And the other one is the safety car finishing the race. But
well, hang on, while we're just on this one, let's just talk about this, okay? So I 100% agree. Okay. To a degree, I 100% agree that if you're driving and you're not getting...
I 100% agree. I kind of a little bit 100% agree. All right, Ciara, let's go. Hedge on your bets. Let's hear it.
There were logical brains coming in here, okay? So I do agree that it's not really fair. I don't think it's fair to give track limits on a car that's struggling. However, the reality is he is still trying to get points. So he's struggling within a point structure. Because everybody's like, oh, Charles in Miami was just going wild. And he was like, you know, cutting straights and should have been given his penalty. And he shouldn't have been able to keep his place. And so you could argue that Charles couldn't control the car and it wasn't his fault. However, he was still trying to fight for a position within the points. And so it was Kimi, even though it was only 9th or 10th, it's still points. So on the one hand, I would love when you have an issue and you can't control the car and it's not your fault that you don't get track limits. But on the other hand, I'm like, yeah, but you're still in the points. So you're still gaining an advantage. Reality is you are gaining an advantage over the cars that are behind you, unfortunately.
Yeah, true, because they're sticking to the rules and you're not. So yes, I guess I hadn't thought about it that way. So fair point. Okay, all right. The other person who got a penalty, while we're talking about penalties, Lewis Hamilton. Lewis got a penalty for jump starting the race, which he never does that. That was unfortunate. And 5-second penalty, which he served during one of his pit stops. And the team didn't tell him about that penalty until he was in the pits, which is, you know, maybe tactical from the team. Maybe they made that call so Lewis would stay focused and stay in that sort of positive mindset, which is where he excels. Probably like everybody, I suppose, if you're feeling good. But I don't know how he would have felt about that. I haven't heard him comment on that. Have you?
I watched the post-race interviews and he was saying, I think he was pretty deflated about the whole thing. He also thought he was going to get a penalty for the yellow flag infringement, which he didn't get. He got a reprimand in the end.
Right. That's
so
right.
I think I think it was just one of those things that he just didn't, it's not a normal thing for Lewis to do. It's just one of those things that happened. He didn't seem to have really much to say about it, you know, like it's not like Lewis does it all the time. And as one of the commentators said, it was like a hiccup. It literally was like the car go, you know what I mean? He didn't even get an advantage. He didn't move. He moved, so it was just such an unfortunate thing.
Yeah, he kind of moved and stopped and then started again. So he didn't get, you're right, he didn't get an advantage by doing that. But still, you know, like, they've got to be really strict with that jump start because otherwise...
Nobody would do it.
Yeah. And what I didn't know until maybe last year was that the start of every Formula One Grand Prix is manual. There's somebody there pressing a button for the lights to go out. So it's not automatic. It's not a set time. there's a human there. All 5 lights come on, and then a human, it's a woman actually, she presses the button from the FIA and all the lights go out. So it could be half a second, it could be 2 seconds. So there's no pattern, if you like, that the drivers can predict. There you go. Fun fact.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that at all. Yeah, really, really interesting. I like that. I like that it's still human. I also like that there's no patterns that drivers can't predict. It also adds extra challenge to it. So then you really realize it's very much about ability to react quickly, reflexes,
Yes.
exactly. Wow. Just going really quickly back to Lewis and not telling him about the 5-second penalties. I thought Ferrari's, well, I was going to say I thought Ferrari's strategy was pretty good, actually, but then there was 2 questions. One of which we mentioned, which is not pitting Charles under the VC, which worked out in their favour in the end. But like, they were basically hedging their bets that Antonelli would come and they would be able to defend against him. With Lewis, I was watching the race, okay, and I knew about his 5-second penalty, and I was thinking about the window, and I was like, okay, the window is 24 laps. On the 24th lap, that's when you should pit for the hards. And like clockwork, that's what Ferrari did. And Lewis is screaming, going, my tires are good. Why are you pitting me? It was really interesting because they were saying it's like, you know, you literally have 3 seconds to decide because they want to tell you late so that nobody else will, you know, go with you,
Yes.
whatever. It actually happened that George did pit at the same time. But what was really interesting for me was I did think it was a smart move on Ferrari's part. It might have been the best hand. You can see that Lewis now trusts them because even though he was complaining, he pitted. He you know, he has free will. He doesn't have to physically. They're not dragging him into the pits. He could have gone another lap, but he went with them. And I think the reason why they did it was because they knew, okay, we have 5 seconds. We're going to be at a disadvantage here. We need to give him time so that he can work his way back to the pack if he needs to. And he did. And he got second. He should have been second. He really should have been second. He did an amazing job. Yeah, the speed wasn't there. And he said the feeling from Friday was gone, which is a pity. They made changes. I think they took out too much wing is what he said or something. But he still did a stellar flipping job. It was just then with the safety car, which I think was the wrong move. I think they were right to pit Charles because you don't want to risk the win. And Charles pretty much had a free pit stop. But they should have, with only 4 laps, they should have risked it with Lewis.
Yeah, exactly. And most of those laps would have been under the safety car anyway, you know, so the possible restart would have meant only 1 lap. But the way I understand the rules to be is that you need to do a full lap. When the safety car comes in, there's got to be 1 full lap before they start race. And because they had back markers mixed in with the front, you know, lapped cars mixed in with the leading pack, it was all a bit of a mess. Martin Brundle had a lot to say about it on Sky Sports. He was very, very, very unhappy about the race ending under a safety car. Toto Wolff, don't know if you saw, but Toto Wolff came out and said, I wish this happened in 2021, you know, and you know, 2021, who still has nightmares over 2021? Me. Oh my God. What? It was awful. And if you don't know what 2021 was, go look it up. Yeah, that's when Lewis didn't get his 8th championship and Max got his first. And it was very, very, very controversial. And the race director from the FIA got the axe after that, Australian guy called Michael Massey. It was a nightmare. Anyhow.
Oh my God.
I'm exhausted even thinking about that.
I wasn't a dedicated fan at that point, so I missed this, but I've heard a lot about it. So my understanding is that they did race with 1 lap and Lewis didn't pit, didn't have the fresh tires, and Max did. Is that right?
Well,
or
it wasn't just down to tyres, it was down to the timing of the safety car, and they let some of the back markers through and some of them not through, and it was all a mess. And because it was the last race of the season, last lap of the season, the championship was on the line. Whoever won, whether it was Max or Lewis, was going to win the championship. So there was so much at stake. So the race director made the call to end the season in race conditions and brought the safety car in. And Max did have better, fresher tyres, which gave Max the advantage where he was able to take the race win. But it was right at the last lap. And like I said, there were back marker cars that some had gone ahead of this, and some hadn't gone. It was a mess. The only people happy about it were Max Verstappen and Red Bull. Oh, Red Bull. Christian Horner's back.
No. I avoided him all weekend. I haven't read about him. I haven't seen him. I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
He's promoting his
Go
new
on.
book called Drive, a book about, take a guess, his time at Red Bull, I'm guessing. He was floating around the paddock. It was funny because he did a speaking tour around the Australian Grand Prix time. And the event he was going to have in Perth, where he was going to talk about Formula One and whatnot, got cancelled. Why? Probably because he didn't sell enough tickets, is what I'm guessing. Let's talk about Oscar in the race. He just had an absolute nightmare, didn't he? He qualified pretty awfully in 8th position. Lando Norris qualified in 6th, so he got out-qualified by his teammate. And then had an issue on the first lap. I think he had a collision with someone or ran up the back of someone. We're not really sure because they didn't show the replay, not that I saw anyway, but he had front wing damage and had to come in to the pits, get his front wing changed. It took a little bit as well. It was like really wedged somehow, so it wasn't just a 4-second front wing change, which is kind of what it normally is. And then ended up coming out, like this was really early on in the race, and was like 19th or something, and just fought his way back to 11th. It was an uneventful race for Oscar. I feel really, really sad for him. Last year was his chance. And the team blew it for him. Oh, anyway.
I think it really shows, though, you know, like I have as a newbie fan often said, like, not now, but like years ago, like, oh, you know, oh, well, it's like, if not this year, you know, next year. And somebody would always go to me, no, you never know what's going to happen next year. You got to take your year. And it's so true. I mean, it's so true in any sport, really, but it's so true in Formula One. I mean, obviously, we've talked about this before, and Oscar's only in his first few years. There's a lot of hope, a lot of faith. But man, watching his just uneventful race after race after race is just disheartening. I'm sure it's massively disheartening for him. I mean, McLaren really are blah, in my opinion. They're not really doing great. They talk a good talk. We'll definitely talk about the sprint because that was interesting. But they're not really lighting up the board, you know?
No, they're not in the race. They're not in the race. Another podium for Lando this weekend in the sprint race. Probably a good time to start talking about the sprint. So we had Kimi Antonelli, who finished on the top step. He won the sprint race and won it pretty comfortably. Lewis Hamilton finished in 2nd. Lando Norris took the 3rd step. So he finished in 3rd place in the sprint, followed by George Russell in 4th, Charles Leclerc in 5th, Max Verstappen in 6th. Oscar finished in 7th, and then Liam Lawson took the last points place in the sprint, finishing in 8th in the Racing Bulls. Lando was, you know, he qualified 6th for the sprint. So,
yeah, hang on. Before we start bashing Lando, he actually had an amazing start, and him and Oscar got themselves up there. So let's remember first that actually Lewis got pole for a sprint, which was amazing, and we thought, oh my God, this is going to be Ferrari's weekend. It was just not that side of the garage. But Lewis got pole, which was amazing. And then on the start, himself and Kimi, if I remember correctly, just had a very underwhelming start. And the boys in white, which really drove me bonkers because I couldn't tell which car was McLaren, sped through. They had an amazing start. And I thought, oh my God, what the hell?
That's true.
And Lando kept it, but kept a good position, but Oscar didn't. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, their reaction times are just amazing. I don't know what, like, because obviously then in the actual race, the feature race, nothing happened spectacular with their own starts, but their start off the sprint was fantastic. Gotta give them that.
Yes, it was. Yeah, you're right. It was. And McLaren were sporting a new livery at this race. And you're right, the car was white, and it was so odd to see. The team was still in orange. Can't even bring myself to say that word. The team was still wearing that orange fruity colour, but the car was white. It was quite odd. And Mercedes, their whole team was in like azure blue, like Ferrari blue. It was weird to see that as
I
well.
was so confused every time I saw someone congratulate Kimi at the end of the sprint race. I was like, why? Because for me, my brain was going racing bulls. I was connecting that to them, and I was like, why are these guys congratulating? I was like, oh no, it's Mercedes. It's Mercedes. Very confused.
Yeah.
Kimi was great. Lewis, the great feelings that he was having. Obviously, he was number one in free practice and then obviously got sprint pole, but just couldn't keep it in the race. And Kimi came charging along and, his first sprint victory, which was great.
But after the sprint race, like the Sky Sports commentary team, oh my God, did they go on and on and on and on about Kimi, which I can forgive because I love Kimi, but they were all saying that he's the championship contender, that he is cool, calm and collected, that he's really grown into himself as a driver. It's not the first few races, they thought it was a bit of a fluke, but he is outperforming George all the time, besides in the main race where he had a technical issue, which wasn't his fault. They were really praising Kimi Antonelli's ability as a driver.
He hasn't had a great few last races. He's so practical. He was even saying, well, we had a really good run and maybe it was a good enough, it was too good in the sense that we had 5 straight wins and ultimately you kind of can't keep that going, I'm majorly paraphrasing here. But I just thought how mature of him, he's a very mature, insightful young guy. Like even in the post-sprint interviews on the couch, one reporter asked him about what his thoughts on George's form and would George come back and and Kimi really took time and then they were like, you're going to answer it, and he was like, I don't want to answer this. I don't want to talk about another driver's form. I don't want to talk about this. He was like, George is a great driver. He's really strong. He's like, I don't think he said he's going to come back, but he was basically praising George, saying he's competition, so shut up. You know what I mean? And I don't think you always see that.
Lewis said to Kimi straight after answering that question, mate, you should be a politician, because he did answer the question really diplomatically, and I think he handled it really well. I mean, you got to remember, he's still 19, and I also think sometimes these reporters ask these curveball kind of questions to get a reaction or to get a headline or to get, something. And Kimi just didn't give them anything. And credit to him, because it would have been really easy to step into that kind of trap.
I think he's got a really good head and shoulders and really interesting people, good people around him, his family, his parents.
Good people around him, yeah.
And I do think actually someone like Bono is actually a really good pairing for him, because I think Bono has a maturity, obviously, and a lot of experience, and obviously also worked with the champion like Lewis for years. It just feels like he's got a good grounding effect on Kimi,
I agree, 100% agree. Bono is so good for Kimi. Kimi trusts him implicitly. They seem to have a really good relationship, and it's paying dividends. I mean, Kimi's leading the Drivers' Championship still on 179 points, ahead of his teammate, George Russell, who's on 154 points. Oh, maths, 25 points difference. So you've got the 2 Mercedes, Kimi and George, leading the Drivers' Championship. Then in 3rd and 4th, you've got Lewis and Charles in the Ferrari on 147 points, and Charles is on 108 points. Then you've got the 2 McLarens with Lando in 5th on 97 and Oscar Piastri in 6th on 82. Then you've got the 2 Red Bulls with Max Verstappen on 76 points and Isaac Hadjar on 52 points. Then a lone Alpine, Pierre Gasly, on 42 points. Then Liam Lawson on 39 points in the Racing Bulls, and in 11th is his teammate Arvid Lindblad. So it's like 2 by 2 by 2 with an Alpine slotted in there in 9th place. The championship still, it's not sewn up by any stretch. It's, 25 points is one race win and a DNF.
And with the way the championship has been affected by technicalities, by technical faults, it really could happen, I mean, Mercedes have had so many technical issues that have impacted one driver or the other and their race win. So I would, I mean, if I was a betting woman, I would bet that is still going to be the case throughout the season, That it isn't just going to be plain sailing for both drivers just because they had loads of technical issues at the beginning, you know? So, yeah, this is definitely not done and dusted. I do think Kimi needs a win soon, though. Like, really needs a win, you
Yeah,
know?
well,
But I think,
you know, like in the Constructors' Championship, I mean, Mercedes are dominant. They're on 333 points, as you'd expect. Yeah. And then Ferrari are 255 points in second place. So that's, you know, 78 points, something like that, like difference. And then McLaren on 179 points, Red Bull Racing on 128 in fourth place, and Alpine in fifth place on 60 points. That's the top five of the constructors.
and then the last thing is that Charles's fantastic win. I mean, I feel like maybe we haven't emphasized it enough, but really Charles getting that win and keeping his composure, even though Antonelli was coming, I just thought was brilliant, you know. But also Charles's win marked the 250th win for Ferrari in the same place they got their first win in, I believe it was 1951. So I'm so glad it was Charles, you know, because he is the Ferrari boy. He's the Ferrari hero. And yeah, you know, I just think it was really poetic. And I'm so delighted for him. I'm so delighted for them as well.
It was really fantastic, especially because he hasn't had a race win since 2024. So it's been a while between race wins for him, and he's seen his teammate, Lewis Hamilton, climbing up and getting results. And Charles even said that he got the good feeling back in the car this weekend. So he's really happy because he was really struggling with the car before that all season. That's really good that, yeah, he's feeling good in the car. And it's also really great that Ferrari's got two drivers that are fighting at the pointy end. You know, we never predicted at the start of the season it would be Ferrari. Everybody was saying it's going to be, you know, pretty much Mercedes season, perhaps with McLaren or Red Bull, but no, it's Ferrari. So yes, very happy.
Yeah, 100%. Thank God it's Ferrari, though, if you think about it, because didn't they stop working on the 2025 car to focus on the 2026 car at some point? And it was like, oh, good God, this better pay dividends. And it is paying dividends. I mean, it is great to see, you know, obviously we'd love it if they were actually leading the championship and actually doing well winning, but it's a long season. There is discussions apparently in the summer break as to whether they'll get back Saudi Arabia or Bahrain. So we might be looking at a 23 race season instead of a 22 race season, you know, so there is still time. It is great to see Ferrari up there challenging, you know. I don't know. There is a voice in my head though, you know, that like, I'm so delighted with that win. I really am. I really, really am. And I'm so excited for Ferrari. And I love that they've gotten 2 wins this season and they deserved both of them. I obviously want it to be more. But the reality is, if that Kimi didn't have that technical issue, they weren't getting that win, right? Like, do you really think he would have been able to defend? His tires are much older.
Yeah, but he did have a technical issue. You know,
It's racing.
yeah, anything can happen in racing, and it normally does. That's what they say. So, but very quickly, just the DNFs. So Max, we've talked about, he went off on lap 46. Alex Albon also DNF'd on lap 43. And Nico Hulkenberg DNF'd on lap 36. He just pulled over on the side on the gravel. I think he had a technical issue. So 3 DNFs. Yep, Lance Stroll finished plumb last. Fernando Alonso just above him. That was the British Grand Prix, the Lego race, which I haven't seen, only clips on social media. But what I did see was that the Lego cars were individual cars this year. They look like Dodgem cars that you see at fun fairs and shows and things. Individual Lego cars, and a whole bunch of them, including NBS, was driving a Lego car. I mean, please, what is the FIA president doing in the drivers' parade to start with, driving a Lego car? And a whole bunch of them went off into the gravel trap. I don't know what happened. They were going around a corner and just a whole bunch of them, it was like a magnet. It's just straight into a gravel trap, and they got out of their cars. I saw Carlos Sainz jumped on Lando's, you know, little Lego car and hitched a ride with him. Lewis Hamilton came out and said that he didn't want to participate in the Lego drivers parade just because there are so many sponsor activations and demands on the drivers' times from their own sponsors, team sponsors, race sponsors, series sponsors. It was like, no. And even Max said, I like it when we're on the back of the truck and we're all together. And that to me is more professional. And that's, I suppose, one of the very few times when all the drivers are together on their own, yes, with a few cameras and TV crew and whatnot, but they don't get that opportunity to do that all that often. I mean, I was really excited for the Lego race. I'm going to have to go back and watch it because I do want to see what happened. No, not all the drivers loved it or like the idea of it.
I heard both of them complain about it. I do agree with Lewis about more being asked, and I don't know. I have conflicting feelings about it because these guys are so well paid. It's like, come on. And the thing is, if you weren't on those Lego cars, you would have been in a bus. So your time is not any different. Like, it's the time that's allotted. This is what it is. The reality is Formula One is getting more and more expensive. People come to see you guys. When you're racing around, they don't really see you. They see you for, boom. You know what I mean? It's so quick. It's just one of those parts of Formula One that they need to be okay with. And Lewis is so good to his fans. I saw a picture of him or a video of him where he got up on the side of that pit lane and he was like leaning out to the fans. Like, he's so good. I think it's more about the maybe the, not sounding greedy, but more the money element of it, of the more and more things being asked, which in a grand scheme of things, maybe it's not about that race in particular, but overall. He's a 7-time world champion for a reason. Max is the 4-time world champion for a reason. And we've talked about this before, but they're much stricter on certain things. They have higher standards. You can see it very clearly. They put in boundaries and barriers, and they have higher standards of what they expect. And ergo, I think that's why they've gotten the results. Whereas I think we've talked before about, is Oscar too amenable? Okay, Lando got his championship, but are they too friendly? Is Charles too nice? You know what I mean? Like, are they ruthless enough? And so it does, unfortunately, then make certain things where you want to hear them through interviews. Like, Max doesn't do Drive to Survive, like neither does Lewis. Like, these are kind of things that, you want to see more of them, but they've said no. Now they can make those decisions. Maybe in their first years they couldn't. But yeah, so I don't know. It's just interesting. It's really interesting mindset. I mean, I saw Lewis had earphones. Every time I see him actually on the grid before a race, he always has earphones in. So he's very much focused.
And I did see a clip, I think it was the last race, where it was really super hot in Austria and Charles Leclerc was standing there for the national anthem with the umbrella and moved the umbrella in front of a grid kid who was in front of him to shield him from the sun. The grid kid was, I think he was in a wheelchair as well. And rather than shielding himself from the sun just before he raced, he moved his umbrella. And I just thought, yeah, a lot of people comment on how nice Charles Leclerc is and what a good human he is. And I remember seeing a clip of him when he was much younger, of somebody asking him, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, kind, and it was just, I think he is just that person. But so, yes, I'm delighted, absolutely thrilled he got the win. That's a wrap on the British Grand Prix. I think we've covered it all.
Yeah, we have.
What did you guys think of the British Grand Prix? What did you think about the British Grand Prix ending under a safety car? What's your opinion on that? And what do you think about Ferrari not telling Lewis Hamilton that he got a 5-second penalty? Yeah, drop us some comments. We've had lots of interesting comments on Instagram and YouTube as well. So keep them coming. We do read them all. Keep the comments coming. And when we can, we respond to them all as well. But yeah, I think that's it. Ciara, have you got anything else?
No, just a reminder to like and subscribe on YouTube. All the follows help. And share with your friends.
Yes, that's right. Oh, quickly, predictions. Wow. So there's been some movement on the Away We Go Predict the Podium game. I'm still winning. So there's not been that much movement, but I'm being caught. There's only 4 points behind is We Are Checking, who had a very good race prediction this week. So they've jumped up second on the leaderboard. Simply Perfect is third on the leaderboard, some 12 points behind second place. Wishful Thinking in fourth and Thoughtful Travel Perth in fifth. I didn't pick particularly well, actually. So yes, but still managed to keep my top spot on the leaderboard.
Love us.
Love it. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening, everybody. We really appreciate it. It's always super fun to talk about all the goings on at a Grand Prix race. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Yes, you can like and subscribe. We're on all the major podcast listening apps, on YouTube as well. Hello if you're watching, and you can follow along on all the social media platforms or drop us a line, hello@awaywegopodcast.com. Thank you very much, Ciara, for joining me. And then we are on for Spa, so the Belgian Grand Prix, which is a driver's favourite circuit. They love racing there. It's a real racers circuit. Until next week, and until lights out.
It's lights out and away we go.
Away We Go podcast is produced by Dianne Bortoletto.